Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 76. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we are beginning Dozo week, where we're going to be going over 7 different Dozo teams that probably work completely differently than every previous instance that I've used Dondozo, and are all teams that are more centered around Dondozo, but more or less have some supporting parts that go along with the Dondozo strategy that we're trying to implement. And the first Dozo strategy is going to be Curse Dozo. Now, this was a form of Dozo that was used very early on in like Reg A or Reg B in order to counter other Dondozos, because whenever you use the move Curse, it can have 2 different effects, where if you are not a ghost type, it will cause you to drop your speed, but you will gain an attack and defense boost. But if you are a ghost type, it will cause the opponent to lose a quarter of their health every turn at the cost of half of your health. So you can use Dondozo, who is very tanky, in order to lose half of your health and then gain it back over time with your leftovers, or this set has the Chesto Resto option. But the idea was that you could just stall out the opponent with your Curse after taking down 2 of the opponent's Pokemon, and since they won't be able to switch, you just use Dondozo to stall, and even if Dondozo gets knocked out, you can use your Tatsugiri for a few extra turns, hopefully that your opponent does not manage to knock out Tatsugiri on the same turn that they knock out Dondozo. So starting off with Dozo, we obviously have the Curse, but we also have the Order Up, and since we are using Droopy Form Tatsugiri for the first time, I believe, we are going to be getting a defense boost every time we go for that Order Up, and that will combo nicely with our Body Press just to try and ship the opponent for some damage before we go for Curse, or if we just don't want to commit to the Ghost Terra, we can go for Curse to increase our attack and defense, and that benefits both our Order Up and our Body Press. As well as we have the Chesto Resto, just for getting rid of our status conditions, but the Chesto Berry also means that we can avoid a sleep from like an Amogus or something like that for 1 turn. Even though we really can't damage the Amogus back, we can dodge it for 1 turn at least. Next up, we got our Tatsugiri Sen. This Tatsugiri is meant to stay on the field for a bit longer, as we have both the Protect and the Substitute option to make it so that it's harder for the opponent to hit us with our max speed. Hopefully we can get up a Substitute. And if there's only 1 Pokemon left and it's Cursed, then we can buy enough turns for ourselves in combination with our Substitute and our Protect in order to get rid of the opponent, especially since we have the Citrus Berry. Once we use the Substitute twice, I'm actually not sure how the HP EVs work out, but eventually our Citrus Berry will proc and we'll get another substitute off of that, as well as we also have the Muddy Water in order to lower the accuracy of the opponent in case they go for maybe like a setup move. Whenever we have the substitute up, that causes them to be able to break the substitute with like a multi-hit move, we can lower their accuracy, maybe for other Pokemon. If we lead Dondozo Tatsugiri, then we also have the accuracy drops for the other Pokemon, but we also have the taunt in case the opponent has like a healing move like Recover in order to counter the Curse damage. And, oh, actually I didn't change the Terra on Tatsugiri, but I guess we can go with Terra Steel. On this team, you're pretty much never using the Terra on Tatsugiri, so it really doesn't matter what you put here, but, I mean, Steel is better than Dragon, probably. Next up, we got Smeargle, and Smeargle is going to be taking part in the making sure that we take down 2 Pokemon very quickly, because Smeargle is going to be using Urshifu's signature move, Wicked Blow, in order to create a critical hit, and we have Primeape here, who Smeargle will be side attacking, but we'll get to Primeape in a sec. And we also have the Spore, and we're Choice Scarf so that our moves are super fast and that we can outspeed our own Pokemon, but also that we're really fast putting other Pokemon to sleep. We also have the Coaching, just in case we want to Coaching any of our physical mons to make them more physically tanky. We also have the Trick option to put the Choice Scarf on a mon to maybe brick it if it's something like a Porygon 2 that wants to set up Trick Room. Or if it's another one of those healing Pokemon with Recover we talked about, we can lock them into the Recover and then they can never attack us, and the Curse damage will probably get them before we start struggling because they can only use 1 move. Up next, we got Primeape, and as we mentioned, we are going to be using Smeargle's Wicked Blow to side attack into Primeape, because Primeape is Anger Point, which is an ability that Annihilate does not get, but also with Primeape, we get to hold the Eviolate so that we do even less damage to ourselves, and since we are a fighting type and not a fighting ghost type, we resist the Wicked Blow, even if Annihilate did have Anger Point. But on Primeape, we get to use Drain Punch in order to get a lot of our health back. Hopefully we can go bar for bar with the opponent if we outspeed one of them, and then we Rage Fist one of them. Since Primeape does get Rage Fist, it doesn't have to evolve into Annihilate in order to get Rage Fist, since it needs Rage Fist in order to evolve into Annihilate. But an ideal scenario would be we proc the Wicked Blow into Annihilate, and then we get the +6 attack, and then we Rage Fist the opponent, knocking out one of their Pokemon, and then even if a Pokemon attacks into Primeape, we can use the Drain Punch on the next turn in order to heal up all of our health, and then we just keep repeating that scenario where Primeape KOs everything, hopefully. But even if Primeape goes down, if it gets at least 2 KOs, then we have the Dondozo Curse strategy in the back, and they cannot escape the Curse because they cannot switch. As well as Primeape has the taunt in order to avoid sleep things or maybe redirection of any kind. We can taunt into the opponent if we need one turn, just to make sure that Smeargle can proc the strategy on the second turn, and Protect is always nice, I guess. And Terra Steel is really nice on Primeape since it allows us to resist Fairy and Psychic type moves, which are both decently common. Up next, we have our second backup Cursemon here, which is going to be Ceruledge. And Ceruledge is nice because it kind of has a fire-water sort of thing going on with the Dondozo and Tatsugiri. And Comfey is Terra Grass and has Giga Drain, so we kind of have fire-water grass. I mean, Comfey is literally a plant. But the idea with Ceruledge here is that we're pretty fast so that we can get off the curse, and then if Ceruledge is able to live on the field for long enough, we can Bitter Blade maybe into a grass type that the opponent brings to try and beat Dondozo and Tatsugiri, and then whenever we get the Bitter Blade into the opponent, we'll heal up some health so that we can go for the curse again. And then we also have the Phantom Force in case we need to stall a turn with the curse. We can go for Phantom Force, and that will make us invulnerable for a turn. And Protect is just nice because it allows us to say, why am I pointing out Protect in this video? As well as Ceruledge is Flash Fire, just so that we can always take fire type attacks, and we're Clear Amulet just because the attack drops do kind of matter on Ceruledge. They don't matter the most in the world. Like, I could definitely see Clear Amulet getting swapped out for something else, but Clear Amulet is just what I have on Ceruledge now. And last but not least, we have the Comfey to mostly support the Primeape and the Ceruledge in order to heal them up, and maybe the Smeargle to heal them up, but not really. Smeargle and Comfey should really never be on the field at the same time. But Comfey's ability Triage allows us to get a +3 priority on all healing moves, and all of our moves are healing moves, because we have the Floral Healing, which will side heal our own Pokemon for 50% of their health, as well as we have the Draining Kiss, which is just some good Fairy type damage, but also restores 75% of our health for the damage that we dealt. And as we mentioned before, the Giga Drain is just some nice Grass type damage, and we are Grass type on Comfey to avoid falling asleep, but also so that we can boost the damage of our Giga Drain, maybe against some Water type mons that want to be using the Rain, and we're Focus Sash so that we can take at least one hit with Comfey. But yeah, that's the basic gist of the team. Let's get into some battles. Okay, so there's not going to be as many battles during Dondozo Week. I only have 3 battles prepped, and that's because once you see this strategy play out, you've pretty much seen it play out a million times. Everybody knows what a Dondozo is at this point. It's just how you use the Dondozo kind of differently from all the other Dondozos that we can showcase here. But the opponent is starting with a Rain team. Instead of using Basculegion, they have actually opted for the Dreadnought, which is slightly better for us because our Dondozo is Body Press, but it also means that they have a kind of better Dozo endgame. If they have like Rock Slide on the Dreadnought, it means that they can flinch our Dondozo, and if they super flinch Dondozo, it's going to be difficult for us to get off the rest. So the game starts, and we lead Ceruledge and Smeargle here to maybe see if they lead Pelipper and Archaludon. And they do in fact lead Pelipper and Archaludon, and at this point, it is most important for me in my mind to put to sleep Pelipper, and then perhaps break the Focus Sash on Pelipper so that it's easier for Dondozo to come in, because all Dondozo has to do is Body Press into Archaludon after building up some defense boost, and then whatever Pokemon they have in the back we can hopefully deal with. So we immediately put the Pelipper to sleep with our Focus Sash, and we get the Curse into our Archaludon in order to start chipping it to where that Body Press can either get rid of it, or it encourages our Archaludon to leave the field, as they just Electro Shot into Ceruledge, which perfectly fine by me. Smeargle's Moody activates, but it doesn't do anything really to help us or against us. As this turn we get to put the Archaludon to sleep, and we just get to get off a Curse with Dondozo pretty safely here. It was just whether or not Pelipper woke up there. Smeargle again gets the, I think, same exact... Did Smeargle get the same exact boost and drops there? But anyways, we form full Dondozo mode, and we activate our Terra Ghost as Pelipper wakes up, but it misses the Hurricane into what was previously Smeargle, and we go for that body press in order to take out the Archaludon, as now they bring in the Dreadnought, but we have some defense boosts built up, and we can afford to just start ordering up into the opposing Pokemon, as Dreadnought did go for the Rock Slide there, but it missed Dozo, and Pelipper just went for Tailwind, so we get a nice order up into Pelipper, and the Rock Slide really isn't doing too much right now, but you can never be too sure in these Rock Slide endgames. We get to order up Pelipper, which is super nice because we could start curse-sitting things if we wanted to, but they have Mouse Hold in the back, so it just makes the most sense for us to start body pressing into the opponent. Second game here, the opponent is using a pretty fierce amount of mons, as the Sneasler and Indeedee exert a lot of immediate pressure, and then Kingambit and Incineroar can exert a lot of endgame pressure, and Primarina can have Haze in order to get rid of our Dondozo's boost. I'm really not sure what Miss Magius is doing here, as it is a Levitate Mon, but none of these Pokemon really want to go for Earthquake, and they're using Psy-Terrain, which, I mean, they don't benefit from the lack of priority if the opponent has, like, Kingambit to Sucker Punch in their Miss Magius, but actually, you know what, now that I think about it, it might just be a Hex Pokemon that they have to sit beside the Sneasler, or maybe they're in Incineroar's, like, Will-O-Wisp or something like that. But the game starts, and they lead Indeedee and Primarina, and we lead the Dondozo, but we also have Smeargle here, and I immediately decide to swap into Tatsugiri, as Primarina protects, thankfully, as I thought it might Haze on this turn, because I think the most sensible play was for us to just form full Dondozo mode, and then maybe try to deal damage into Indeedee, but the Indeedee actually reveals that it's Trick, and since we're Choice Scarf, Indeedee must be Choice Scarf, so it tricks a Choice Scarf onto Tatsugiri as we get a Spore into Indeedee, so Indeedee at least is going to take a guaranteed sleep turn next time it comes in, because Indeedee gets to leave, as they bring in their Sneasler here, and I make a bit of a bad play, which is going for Substitute, even though, like, we could have caught a hit from the Primarina if it was, like, Safety Goggles. It really didn't benefit us to go for the Substitute in this moment. It might have been better to, like, taunt into Primarina to keep it from going from Haze whenever we bring in Dondozo mode. We get to sleep in the Primarina, so it's not Safety Goggles, as Smeargle's getting Moody Boost. But now we double swap Dondozo and Primeape here, as Sneasler just decided to try and Dire Claw here, as Primarina gets the one-turn wake up and brings Primeape down pretty low. But now we just form the full Dondozo mode this turn, and they miss the Dire Claw into Tatsugiri, but we get one order up into Sneasler, but Primarina is able to haze away the boost here, and they just Dire Claw into Dondozo, not getting a secondary effect, but Moonblast also does some pretty good damage, and the second order up is not able to pick up the KO on Sneasler, unfortunately, but the defense boost does mean that we live the Sneasler attack, so we also get hit by Primarina, and Tatsugiri is safe this turn, and Tatsugiri is Choice Scarf right now, but the Sneasler is on Burden, so it gets to outspeed Tatsugiri, but Tatsugiri takes out Sneasler as Primarina takes out Tatsugiri, and now Primeape is just left on 1 health, and I make the read here that since the opponent has revealed Protect, it makes the most sense for me to try and Drain Punch into the Indeedee instead of trying to put to sleep the Primarina again. So the opponent does Protect, thankfully, as we Terra Steel our Primarina just in case they attack, and we side coaching Primeape in order to Drain Punch Indeedee, and Indeedee actually lives not on a Focus Sash because it's Citrus Berry, but we get a lot of health back on the Primeape here, as now is probably our best time to attack a Primarina, so we go for the 2x Rage Fist, and it's 150 base power Rage Fist that's doubled by the Primeape's 2x attack, so I don't think that crit on the Primarina mattered, but I'm not going to calc it. As Indeedee takes its second sleep turn, but I don't know what Indeedee would have done if it woke up, because it probably doesn't have, like, a good fighting type move. Kingambit protects on this turn, but we're just continuing to coaching into the Primeape to make it really hard for the Kingambit to get rid of Primeape, and at this point, the game is pretty much over. They decided to Terra Dark their Kingambit there, but they Sucker Punch on their own terrain, which doesn't work, but we just get another coaching into Primeape, and Primeape is able to close out the end of the game there. So, if anything, that was kind of a reverse Curse strategy, where we used Dondozo in order to get a KO in order to let Primeape sweep the end game, which is kind of funny now that I think about it.
Lastly, we have a game here against a team that I'm not quite sure what it's doing. Like, they have the Gliscor, who's been kind of popular, and they have two Levitate Mons to... Actually, they have three Levitate Mons in order to avoid the Gliscor's Earthquake. And then Tauros is just a good support for, like, Intimidate stuff, and then Amoonguss is a good support because it's an Amoonguss. But we start Primeape and Smeargle here because I wanted to get off the Primeape strategy, as they restart with Gliscor and Rotom, and it is not guaranteed for us to be faster than the Gliscor, but we do have a pretty good amount of speed investment on the Primeape, where we're not max speed, but we're pretty close to it. So if the Gliscor wants to deal a lot of damage, it really doesn't benefit it to be max speed, even though most of them are max speed. But I figured that with the Eviolite that we would be pretty likely to live a Gliscor attack if that came out into Gliscor. So we just activate the Wicked Blow into Primeape in order to max its attack stat out there, as Rotom actually reveals that it is Choice Scarf because it moved before Primeape. But Primeape is at least faster than Rotom's. It's faster than Rotom's max speed, so we know for a fact that Rotom is Choice Scarf. As Tauros gets down the Intimidate, but our Primeape is faster than the Gliscor, so we don't have to risk taking a hit from it on this turn. And they bring a Rotom back here, and I bring Ceruledge in, hoping to catch a fighting type move from the Tauros onto Ceruledge, and then just protecting the Primeape out here. But they decided to Aqua Jet Smeargle, and it does exactly... well, not exactly enough. It does enough to two-hit KO Ceruledge. So Ceruledge, unfortunately, is just going to go down, and Primeape catches the Overheat here, which allows us to Drain Punch into the Tauros to get a lot of our health back. And now that the Rotom has overheated, and the Amoonguss doesn't have much offense into Primeape, and we still have Dondozo to use our Terra Ghost in order to curse into the opponent to slowly chip them over time while resting, the game is definitely over at this point. So yeah, that was the Curse Dozo team, and this is a pretty quirky way to use Dondozo, especially since if Terrestrialization never comes back, we'll never get to use Dozo like this ever again, unless they invent like a magic powder for making a Pokemon a ghost type. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video, and even consider subscribing, because both of those things help me out an absolute ton, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.